Hi everyone, here is a quick video to show how to create a action to do fast skin retouching. I wanted to say, because I'm involved in skin retouching, there is a moral question about how much you do and what you do and where you do it. Telling people they need to be other than they are is obviously a very complicated question because it has an effect on how they feel about themselves. And as photographers, we need to be part of the solution, not the problem. In my view, expression is the most important thing. If somebody feels beautiful when you take a picture, they'll look beautiful. Talia here, this is her spotlight shot. All spotlight shots now, there's a fashion and they're over retouched. Everyone has spots removed completely, and there's the odd exception, but that's kind of the norm. I'm going to show you how to do this. We have decided together with Talia that we're going to include the spots, some of the spots that I would have seen with my eye when I'm taking the picture. That's how I do retouching, if I can, is to show the kind of things that I would see with my eye. Then I know if the person loves the picture, they feel beautiful the way they are, which I think is important. Anyway, let's start with a very simple action. We're going to have a little folder here, and we're going to start creating the action, and we're going to call it frequency sep, and I'm going to call this 4 pixel. So you're going to do different ones for different things. So if she was a full length, we would pick different resolution, but I'll explain in a second. And if you put 4 pixel, you'll know when you want to record this one. So we'll start recording. We'll get rid of that there because it's quite messy. And we'll go up and we're going to go down here first, and we're going to make Control J, make 2 new layers from the back of the background, copies of the background. If we go image, edit, copy and paste, you'll get the same thing. But this is Control J or Command J on a Mac. We'll duplicate the background. So that's what we've done. We're going to turn the top one off, and we're going to select layer 1. And we're going to go, there's many ways to do this. I apologise for my cold. It is making me say more than I like to, and I apologise for that. It'll become annoying after a while, and if you need to turn the sound off, you can do that. So dust and scratches is one method that people use. Median is another. I'm going to start with Gaussian blur because I haven't really found a major advantage of using the other methods. And Gaussian blur is the simplest, so we're going to stick with that. So we're going to, as we said, 4 pixel, which I'd already had a look to see if what I wanted to do beforehand. So that you can build these at 2 pixels, 4 pixels, 6 pixels, and 8 pixels, or whatever you choose to do. But you can see here that we've lost, by blurring it, we've now lost the major texture in her skin and her face. But we've kept other details. We've kept other details that if we were to remove those, it would, but still keep the texture, we'll end up with a more convincing natural portrait. So that's why I've selected this. So press OK. Then we're going to now select the top layer. Then go up to image, apply image. And then we're going to select in the layer, we're going to select layer 1, which it's already selected. Then we're going to select add 2, 0, and then invert. These are all selected because I'd already just pre-tested it beforehand. Actually, I did too many ums, which is why I restarted it. And press OK. And what you can see here is a grey layer with the texture visible. So if we go over here and change to linear light, our blend options, what you'll see together, if I put those two in a folder by selecting both of them and then pressing Command G, they've gone into a group. So if I turn that group off, you can see there's no change. So the 2 of those layers together have created the background layer. So we can work on just the texture, or can just work on, sorry, we're calling the texture the high frequency and the tones the low frequency. So we're going to work on the low frequency. You can, what we're going to do between it, we select layer 1, and we're going to make a empty layer. Now, if we just paint on it, this is a traditional method is just in a low flow painting. So choosing a color and then painting over it. And you can use this method, you can try it out. It's very quickly looks very retouched in my view, which is why I've developed for speed another system. And this is Mixer Brush. Now the settings up here that I've got here, I'm going to go flow up to about 6 actually. I change it depending on some things that you will gradually work out by playing. But if you look at those settings, that's the settings that I use most of the time. Now, if we just do it, I'm going to do it just for a second and then undo it. But if we just pick that bit of skin, select that color and then just swipe through there, you can see it's taken the top layer and increased that as well. So it's made it really kind of over sharpened and horrible. So let's undo that. To avoid that, you need to turn off this layer here. So I'll turn that layer off. Now we're on, I shouldn't have done that for the action, but it doesn't really make any odds. So we're on Mixer Brush with these settings on that layer, and we've done all of that in an action. So if we go back to the actions and press stop, and then go to history, and go back to the beginning. Actually, we didn't want to go back all the way to the beginning because I cropped this picture. And I did some other things for contrast, which I don't want to get into now because it's really a bit complicated. But I'll remove that layer. So we've just got the basic background layer. And now I'm going to go back to the actions and just press play to see if it worked. And it worked. We're all ready to go. Now, when you're building an action, there are certain things that you need to think about. If we were to run this action again while we're on this layer, it's not going to work because it needs to start from a background layer. So if you're building an action which works on a background layer, you need to start with a background layer. So if you want to do and add it to other things, so you're doing multiple layers, if you do Shift, Option, Command, E, you create a whole layer of everything and then take that right to the top. So layer, bring to top, and I need to remember this because I normally don't use this. I normally do it with arrange, bring to front. Okay, it would be selected if it wasn't at the top. So you would do it so that it wasn't. Bring to front, and then it's always at the top is a selection of everything, and then you can build it on something. But that's a good way to always start, and you'll work from there. Right, but we're going to get rid of that and go, in fact, we're going to get rid of this again, and we're going to start it again from the beginning, just so we've got our action. So we've now got an action which does 4 pixels frequency separation. Right, so we are going to select, so the brush will change, we're going to constantly change the size of the brush, otherwise we will end up start picking those textures and picking them up. So we're going to do the most complicated bit here, which this is the hard bit when you've got transition over a cheekbone, because if you start doing too much, you're going to change the shape of her cheekbones, which is going to change the shape of her. So let's select this area here, a little bit bigger brush, and then we're going to just go back and forwards. And so I keep working on different areas, but you can see what's gradually happening is we are smoothing away the blotchiness. But if we keep changing our brush size depending on the area that we're working, we're going to keep a more organic feel to it. Now if you get rid of the redness of these spots like I've done there, you can still keep the spot. Now this is something I've always had an issue with under the eyes. If you lighten it too much, it looks artificial, but sometimes it's the colour that's a problem. So what I tend to do is soften it to a sensible amount, and then we can create a new layer above, which is just a colour layer. So we select a new layer and then call it colour. And then we can go to a normal brush, and then you can be quite aggressive with your painting because you're only changing the colour. So if there's redness here, for instance, you can take a non-red skin tone and paint it over. Be careful that you don't flatten, because she needs different colours in her skin, because skin is not one colour. Balancing skin tones is a really tricky thing that you need to do it for a while to create intuition. So that's our colour layer. I would call it colour so we don't get confused. You can build that into your action if you want. I apologise for saying this cold is hanging on, and it's making me breathe in a strange way. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. So here we're going to go back to that layer with the mixer brush. And you can see now this area is very blotchy, so let's really try and... Now you will go too far. There's no way round that. It's a difficult thing to perfect. But the important thing, because this is non-destructive, we can go back afterwards and take away or add. Now sometimes, like this, you do want this to be lighter, and you can't do this with the mixer brush because it won't push, it will always muddy, because that's what it's doing, it's mixing everything. And so you can, highlights will never do it. So you can do another layer above the colour layer, and this one is just going to be a painted layer. Go back to the brush and just pick and just paint under the eyes, but be careful, pick the highlight, don't go white. We're going to do a quick white at the end. So you can see now we're starting to get I'm going to go back to our basic layer here, and then get rid of those. I'm not going to do everything because you don't need me to. You don't have to sit through the whole lot, but I want you to see the effect of it. So I'm going to get rid of the bulk. And this is supposed to be a fast one, but I say Talia's skin is quite blotchy. So let's turn it on and off. Now add the texture back again. Now you can see this is starting, it still looks over retouched, and we're going to fix that at the end with a few different things. But if we carried on working it, here you've got the blood vessels in the eye. Again, if we turn off that layer, it's really quite easy to get, because those blood vessels are low frequency. So they're going to disappear quite quickly. Go back, and you can see there. So we've kept a little bit of them, and we can get rid of that. Now we're going to go to the high frequency. You can work on that as much as you like, and we're going to come back at the end to see how much we want to keep and not. So let's go to the high frequency. Now, this is the detail level. So all the details, like the hairs, she's plucked some of the hairs, but not all of them. It's very difficult to see because you wouldn't see that close. But also we've got some details that you might want to remove. So we create the clone stamp tool, and we take it to its sharpest and quite small, and we're going to do it 100%. Now, the other really important thing is it's on current layer only, because if you do it on all the layers, I'll do one on all layers. If we check here and do that, it's copied all the colours, and then it's gone over that layer. And because that layer that we're working on has a linear light, it's applied the linear light to the whole thing. So that's why we can't do it. So we're going to undo that, go to current layer only, and then we can, for instance, we can just take out that texture. But it's very easy to take away all the texture and go too far. But the big advantage of this method is that we're copying a piece of texture, skin texture, that we know where it's from. You can see that actually there's still some redness there. We can go back and sort that out, and I'll show you how in a second. But these little skin marks are part of her skin. you can lighten them, but if you remove them, her skin will just look plastic. But for instance, under the eye, with older people, they're going to have creases and lines, and you can copy the same bit. So for instance, if there's a spot here, you can use the texture of this area and copy it, which means you keep an authentic look. So this area of skin is different to everyone else. So when we copy that, we can do that. Or this, probably a chicken pox mark. How far you go, again, it's a personal decision, but it's, for me, I want to see skins, a living thing. A newborn baby has a unique texture and it's beautiful. If we take that away completely, we lose some of the integrity of why we're creating the picture in the first place, a celebration of something that's beautiful. Our personal interpretations should not be too extreme in my view. Anyway, I've got to stop preaching. So there we go. That's give you an idea. Now we've got the whole layer in this folder. So if we create a mask, white reveals, black conceals. So if we take a normal brush in black and paint on there, we're going to reveal back what we're missing. And we can tell how good it is by turning it on and off and seeing just how real. But you can see that her skin here looks real. It looks convincing. I mean, we can work harder on getting rid of those things, but I'd be tempted to leave some of those in and make it look real. You've got to make that assessment every time. Right, so now we've got that layer. You could call that layer frequency separation just because it would be good to when you're building your action. Okay, so now hair. Hair is really difficult. So I've got a 3-step method, sometimes 4 and 5, depending on what I'm doing and who I'm doing it for. But let's start with a really simple one, and that is, so let's create a background layer. In fact, the best thing to do, if we select here and we can do Shift, Option, Command, E, that copies all of the things we've seen and creates a stamped layer of everything. So that layer is everything we've seen. Now what we're going to do is we're going to cut out the hair so that we can get rid of all of this mess. So we go to your pen tool, and I don't know if you've used the pen tool. It's really simple. It's a lot of people are scared by it, but it's really simple, and it's the best way to get a nice smooth line through here. So let's select. So we're going to use the Option key. Press the Option key and then pull. I didn't press it hard enough, so we'll undo. So I'm going to press down and pull at the same time. Like that. Can you see? So we're going to create a real line of the hair. Every time we're pulling it to fit that curve. So depending on what you do here. Now sometimes it just won't work, so you can't control it. So you've got to control this one. And again, if you go back and press Option, you get to just above it. You can then move that about until you get it here. Doesn't have to be perfect because you're going to come around and make it perfect. So we're going to stick inside these areas. Now I want to leave little lines to make it look perfect, but not all of it. And I'll show you in a second. Okay, now this is where it gets more complicated when you're going to do areas like here. And I'll show you how we make this much more convincing. There we go. Now I'm going to keep most of these, but so I do want to. But you've got to remember, if you forget to clean it up later, then it's not going to be very good. Okay, you'll have to practice with the pen tool if you haven't used it before, but it really is an incredibly useful tool. Now, here we're going to clean up some of the mess, but keep a certain amount of it. I'll show you how to go too far, actually, so that you can make your own judgment to how far you would go. You can see I haven't pulled that one quite perfectly, and I apologise. It doesn't run out too much. And we go up to here and say selection, 1 pixel in most of the cases, depending on how far, but generally 1 pixel will do good. Then we are going to, now you can see we've selected that outer area. What we're going to do now is we're going to go to the old-fashioned, it's got a name, instant selection tool. Now, you saw this arm was out of focus. So we'll take our focus tool, our blur tool, sorry, and just paint over the top and blur it more than we did before. Now you can see that bit there. I don't, those hairs, so I'm going to take my brush tool and I'm going to include those a bit. But it's on 3%, so it's not going to show up very much. So just, I'm going to show those hairs so I don't make sure and make sure you keep painting till they blend. Turn out strength up to 100% for this. You know, there's lots of areas that you can just soften. Even this area here would be benefited from softening. But you can see this is actually pretty quick with the pen tool to just go around. You don't obviously have to go mad for everybody. Sometimes you can just do it, but if her hair is this messy, this is the only way I've found to give a nice, clean, authentic looking edge to the hair. Right, so come out of Quick Mask. Now, at the moment we've selected the background, so what we could do is copy and paste, but we don't need this layer anymore. So I'm going to invert it and then I'm going to delete it. And just to help you, I'm going to turn off the other layers underneath it so you can see what we've got here. Now if I hold down Command and click this layer, that's not working. It's not selecting all. No. There we go. I don't know why it didn't do it, but now it's selected everything. So we go up to our clone tool. We want a good size clone tool, completely soft, bigger than that, because what we're going to do is paint over these areas. 100%, and we're just going to go here. Find an area that's similar, and that's a bit too dark, you can see, so go a bit lighter. Obviously some textures in the background are going to be harder than others. Right, all you're caring about is this line here. So you just, because you've selected it, you're not going over the line. So a bit lighter here. If you get better at it, you can start adding 50% of things and even a bigger. So just, I'll show you why it doesn't need to be amazingly accurate in a second, because really what you're doing is, right, you can see what I've done there. I've got that edge, so we've got to make sure we don't keep that sharp edge because it wouldn't look good. Right, so I'm doing this fast. You could spend a bit more time and get a better job. You see I've gone too dark, so undo it, pick a lighter tone, and there we go. Right, now you can see I've got the nice clean line there. I think I'm going to pick that one there to do these ones. Right, so I'll go down there, I think, for that one. Right, so we've got a nice clean edge. Now we're going to use I'll wait for the name for it to come up. It's the patch tool. So we go, we're going to deselect first, and then just select that patch tool, and then slide over here. You can see it's now blending our background in a very convenient way. Okay, you still see that one. Let's get rid of that. If we had tried to do this before getting a clean edge, it would have tried to blend that dark and give us some very unpleasant, odd-looking shapes. And that's why this is necessary. Okay, so now when we turn all the background out, it's going to look a bit harsh and unnatural. It's going to look too perfect. So how do we make it look not too perfect? And we do this by creating a mask, and what we're going to do is paint back some of that hair. So we're going to get the eraser tool, and I've already picked it, but if we go over here, if you've got it selected, but if not, if you go here, pick a blotchy line like one of these, and then take the spacing down as far as you can to 1%. You have to make the brush bigger, so it's about the size of hairs, and you're just going to gradually paint it back. Sorry, we're in there. We're on eraser tool, and the eraser tool should be the other way around because the eraser tool is going to use the black here. And if you don't, so we're going to, you could use the brush tool and paint in black, but I'm just using the eraser tool. So just keep, you can practice here and you're just whipping back. But because you're on the mask, if you've gone too far, like that, you can invert by pressing X and paint it back again. But making this imperfect with your own imperfect hairs is what makes it look like real hair. Again, this bit here, we really want it to see what this did down here. That looks all right. This for me is fine. It's not, because it's out of focus, it's not distracting. But I want some hair here because the hair is on the shoulder, so it wouldn't suddenly stop. But you can keep playing, and then now you might think her hair looks a little flat here, and you want to tidy it up and fill some of that area. So I'll quickly show you how to do that. So we're going to just go, and here I always do a little bit of extra because the crown is always messy because it's got hair going in multiple directions. So make it look real, and then it's less distracting than a fake perfect. And here is the difference with it on and off. And it is just less distraction. But that hair sticking out there is too distracting for me. So what I would do, again, I'm going to copy the whole thing by pressing Shift, Option, Command, E, and stamp all layers. Sorry, I'll try and cut that out of the video if I can get a chance. Right, so good old-fashioned lasso tool, and then we're going to take that area and just select. I hope I remember to cut that out. So that's the area, roughly. The reason I do that is because it gives me an idea of where it is in that. So, but I want to copy a more convincing area. So we're going to copy that piece there, more than we want. Copy and paste. Move that over to roughly where we want it, and then rotate it. Fit. Now we're going to go up to the, I need to know what this is called, but basically this little tool allows us to move it around in areas and almost like liquefy, but a little bit more controlled than liquefy. But it's nice and simple, and it's there to our hand. So, okay, now on the up. So it's moving in the same way the hair is moving. But you can see we're going to repeat those hair. So we could have done this at the end after we've done our last thing. Okay, so now we go to our eraser, and we've got the still same eraser tool. So if you make a mask on it, we can then paint that in and make it look very convincing. But it's filling any gaps that we don't like. I know there's more gaps there that I'm showing, but I'd rather redo that and keep that line. Too far there. So you can lower the smoothing and the flow, rather the flow, not the smoothing. And you can see you can very quickly build up a perfect hair. So the other thing I want to see now is I do this on most of my pictures, but it is time consuming, and I can't recommend that you do it. But you make a new layer and switch that layer to darken. Then we go to the spot healing tool, and you want the hair, you want the size to be about 3 times that. At the moment that's about 5 times. If we make it 3 times, about there. And then we're just going to paint over the top. And the hairs that you remove, the ones going against the flow, they're the ones that are distracting and making the hair look messy. But you will get a flavour of what by practicing. Now you can see it's not perfect. That's all of this is fixable. So we do it all. I won't go mad because you'll get bored. But if you go like that, do all of that. You can see you can very quickly get rid, depending on the hair and how frizzy it is. Whoops, I've just dragged it with the wrong key. You don't want too many layers. Like that layer is not, we only use that to copy it, so we can dump that layer. And you could save this as layers, because you can turn all these layers off, get back to the original. If you've gone too far at the end, you can check. I would strongly suggest you start doing this in the beginning, because 12 terabyte hard drives are so cheap now. It's not such a big deal storing these big files, and it is a big file. If there's any other bit that you would like to add to this, let me know. Hope that was helpful. Let me know if you're happy with it. Take care. Thanks.